I've been playing Teardown on and off for the month of January, and it was super fun destroying buildings, discovering secrets, and blowing things up. For the first half of the game at least. It's been almost 2 years since it came out of early access, and I was offered a review key for it, so I thought, why not? It's been on my wish list for a while now, and it's always nice to be able to let off some steam at the end of a long week. This is how a typical mission in Teardown goes. Arrive on site, getaway vehicle ready to go. First, you're gonna want to get the lay of the land. Walk around, drive around, smash through some walls, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. You can use this handy-dandy map to pinpoint the location of your targets and come up with the best solution to hack, break, or steal them. Or at least a solution. If it works, it works. Once you have everything lined up, the timer starts counting down, so you gotta act fast, and let's try that again. The best thing Teardown has going for it is the amount of options you have as a player to get the job done. This is the definition of a sandbox game, and all the tools you'll unlock during the story mode open your options up even further. I think the beginning of the game is paced very well, and it introduces you to new methods of destruction quite nicely. But about 4 to 5 hours in, I started to get sick of the game's first few maps, which you'll be returning to again and again. Now, reusing maps is fine. I know it must take quite a bit of effort to create even one, but I think they could have introduced some new ones into the mix just a little earlier, because the game does have a decent amount of them. But it wasn't just the locations I got sick of. It was a certain type of mission where your objectives are spread out through the map and it's a mad dash to get to them all in time. Because of this, I very quickly switched my timer from 60 seconds to 120 seconds because I just didn't want to be stressed out all the time. I also just totally skipped all the helicopter missions because it was just a pain to try to hide from them in the bigger maps. But I mean, you do have the option to skip missions and change around time constraints, so it's nice to see the devs acknowledge that some players just want a more relaxed experience. There were some missions though that I did think were super fun and really showcased the core of what Teardown is. Pure chaos and destruction. For example, the first mission, which is to knock down this house. There are also others where you have to blow the top off a tower, destroy a mall food court, and scurry around an island putting out small fires. This is the kind of stuff that I thought I'd be doing more in the game, not these heist missions that are a mad dash to the finish. And some of the maps are also brilliant and just super fun to mess around in. My favorite is Gordon Wu's mansion, which is filled with fast cars, a racetrack, construction vehicles, and tons of glass to smash. It's stuff like this that really got my inner childlike creativity flowing again, and the first few times experiencing this stuff was truly special. Somewhere about halfway through, the game throws a twist at you. You're shipped off to a tropical island, and you basically lose all your tools. In order to get them back, you have to find them scattered throughout the level. I think this is a good way to switch up the gameplay, at least for a bit, and it gets you thinking strategically again after having access to an almost unlimited supply of explosives and bullets. You do get all your stuff back eventually, so don't worry too much. And again, you can always skip missions, which is something I tried not to do too much, but sometimes it was either that or quit the game entirely. So this is all main campaign stuff, which honestly wore me out by the time I got to the end. But I haven't even touched on the sandbox mode and community mods and maps, which are the real bread and butter of Teardown. The game's super creative community has made and uploaded their own maps, minigames, tools, vehicles, and other wacky things, all free to download and test out. The Teardown team at Tuxedo Labs has also been creating additional content for the game, including the free Art Vandals expansion and some additional premium DLCs. Now this is where things get a bit dicey. Long story short, Tuxedo Labs was acquired by the Embracer Group via Saber Interactive. So yeah, not exactly the best company to be tied to. And most likely due to this corporate greed, the rest of Teardown's expansions are now paid content. There's nothing wrong with having paid DLC, especially if it's actually had effort put into it, but let's take a look at the timeline here. April 2022, Teardown exits early access, which was clearly very successful because the developer was acquired a few months later in August. All the while, the game's modding scene is popping off and the upcoming free expansion is finally released in December. Then, almost 1 year after launch and 7 months after the acquisition, the base price of Teardown was increased from $20 to $30 US. Then, a series of 4 paid DLCs are announced further into 2023. Finally, we get to the dreaded Season Pass, which also costs $30 and does not include the base game. Now, some of this stuff on its own is okay. The developers are allowed to make money. But when you add it all together and pack it up nice and neatly into a little box with the Embracer logo stamped onto the side, it starts to smell a little bit fishy. Now, I liked Teardown, but I really don't need more of it, especially not if it's paid content. The campaign was long enough, and maybe even overstayed its welcome. So a whole plan to pump out 4 DLCs in the next year just seems like a forced thing by a greedy investor. But I just wanted to put all that info out there and include it in this review because it's definitely something you should consider when deciding where to spend your money. And speaking of, I'd like to give an extra special thanks to everyone who has supported me on Patreon to help make reviews like this possible. I have a little indie game newsletter on there that I publish weekly, and it includes announcements, new releases, games I'm currently playing, and it's just generally a good place to keep up with industry news in a bite-sized format. If you're not into that though, no worries. Here are some other videos I've made about some games I think you might enjoy.